Old Bloke Goes to Dumbarton Castle. So Dumbarton Castle is definitely one of my favourite places to be. Steeped in history, the twin peaks that guard the entrance to the River Leven only came into existence after a huge volcano blew itself apart about 300 million years ago. Imagine the scene. Dumbarton, at least the bit of ground that would become it, sits in the giant continent of Pangaea. Everywhere we know, like Africa, the Americas and Europe, were all fused into one big chunk of land. But it wasn't still and deserted. No, it was teeming with life. This was the Permian period. Some amphibians had already morphed into reptiles that would 70 million years later morph again into the first dinosaurs. Dumbarton would have lots of synapsids, things that would become you and me one day, and diapsids, the ancestors of all birds and reptiles. We still have a few diapsids today, crocodiles and snakes, for example. But the daddy of them all, just before that volcano erupted at Dumbarton, was the Dimetrodon, an apex predator that looked like a dinosaur, but wasn't he? No. And they put it into all those movies like The Lost World in 2 million BC, but it was actually more, close related to us than true dinosaurs, with its big sail back and its curved canine teeth. You know the one I mean. Looks like a lizard, but it's got a big fin in its back and with spikes and kind of webbing in between. Anyway, there's a huge explosion, probably at least as big as an atom bomb. And there it stands, the twin granite core of the smoking volcano, soon to cool and become a great wee place for men to hang out, or at least put up some defences, some 2,998,500 years later. You know, it was known as Alt Clut, or the Rock of the Clyde. It would later be referred to by its Gaelic name, Dumbarton, or Fortress of the Britons. That's where Dumbarton gets its name from, Dumbarton. And there's all sorts of stuff attached to the place, and people and myths. For example, the magician Merlin was supposed to have stayed there at the court of King Ridrich in 590 AD or so. A siege and a battle with an army of Picts and Northumbrians at the gates all hammering away was supposed to have happened at 756 AD. And then the biggie, the capture of the rock after a 4-month siege by Vikings in 870 AD. Apparently the castle ran out of water and the game was a bogey, which meant robbery and a life of servitude at best for those captured. They were all sailed down to Dublin to the slave markets. After this, Dumbarton Castle features in the struggles with Norway, who captured the Hebrides and Argyll in 1098 from King Edgar of Scotland. Later in 1222, Alexander II tries to recapture the lost lands, but it's never really managed until 1266, when Alexander III eventually signs the Treaty of Perth, and the lost lands are returned to Scotland. William Wallace is mentioned in connection with the castle too. Indeed, the keeper of the castle in 1305, a blackguard called Sir John Stewart of Menteith, tricked and captured the Scottish hero outside Glasgow, and he may have held him at Dumbarton before shipping him south to be hung, drawn and quartered. There's certainly a tower there called the Wallace Tower, although it seems to have been built a bit later. Robert the Bruce would have known the place too, having his manor, which included a collection of exotic animals, I think including a lion, and that was within walking distance of the castle, in between Cardross and Alexandria, where it stands now. And of course, Mary Queen of Scots, that slightly tall lady for the time, she was 5'10". She wandered about a lot of castles in Scotland and of course ended up at Dumbarton. She was there for 6 months in 1548 as a kid, but would return in July 1563, before eventually being led south, again, there's a bit of a theme here, to meet a sticky end. It took 3 chops of the executioner's blade to remove her head. which apparently kept talking for a good 10 minutes after the event. Weird. So on and on it goes, with General Wade strengthening the place after the first Jacobite rebellion of 1715. And then as recently as 1941, the castle actually took a few hits from a German bomber on a raid in May of that year. Now, as I look up at the White Tower Crag on the left, and the beak, the lumpy bit on the right, that's what it's called, I wonder if I'll make the 557-step climb. You see, I'm there with another better half, a guy called John, who's a wiry bugger and more than capable of scaling these heights, I think. So, puffing and panting, we pass through the Portcullis Gate, which is one of the oldest parts remaining, and up towards a fork where we turn left or west and head up to a steep narrow set of stairs that wind all the way up to the highest point, right beside the tattered Scottish saltire up there. We stop and take in the 360 view. Staring at the Erskine Bridge in the distance, we scan round over the Clyde estuary and up towards Dunoon before swinging over Hellsborough, the Vale of Leven, and eventually towards the great wall that towers over Dumbarton on the east, known as the Crags. I wonder if Ivor the Boneless stood here and looked out on a day like this, says my better half. Aye, I bet he did, I reply. He was Danish, you know. He probably looked up at the loch towards Ben Lomond in the north, probably thinking of home, you know. They had 200 ships to them. Aye, says my better half, that's a lot back then. Aye, and they came back later, in 1236, and plundered all the wee towns around the loch, Ballach, Luss. They were all raided by mental, bloodthirsty Vikings. Oh, it's not changed much then, he adds. Try Ballach on a Saturday night after an Old Firm game. Up there in the wind and just before it starts to rain, we start to blether about some earliest pieces of writing that were found in a kind of Welsh. He said it was a poem or something, and it was actually attributed to the castle. And also, I go on about how Wallace's sword, you know, the one that used to be housed in Dumbarton Castle, had been whipped by the Stirling mob, and how it's now in the Wireless Monument across there. I don't think that's fair. I think you should spend a bit of time here too, in Dumbarton. I don't see much wildlife around the place. Just some jackdaws, some lesser black-backed gulls, and some rock doves. But I know there have been sightings of peregrine falcons here, and even seagulls, soaring towards the mountains in the distance. Ah, look at this, says my better half. Well, my other better half. He's staring at a wee kind of plaque, and there's a picture of Napoleon on it. Look, he says, Napoleon was almost imprisoned here at Dumbarton Castle after Waterloo. That was 1815, wasn't it? That's one of these dates I can still remember, I say. Anyway, they didn't put him here. They put him to St Helena instead, away in the Atlantic, way out the road. They did hold a few captured French generals in Dumbarton Castle for a bit, and they were allowed to walk up to the top of the beak. You know, the wee bumpy bit on the kind of right-hand side, looking at the castle from the kind of southern entrance. Oh, and by the way, the castle used to have a northern entrance, and I think that was the main entrance way back. And that came in from Dumbarton itself, and a kind of big ramp that went up to the main door. But anyway, those generals could walk up to the top of the beak, but only accompanied by a couple of guards who had some guns with big jaggy bayonets on them. Speaking of the eastern mound known as the beak, my dad worked in the magazine house at the summit as a builder way back in the 70s. And apparently he found, buried under the floor, a box containing 2 Jacobite pistols. If only he'd snuck them out, we could have sold them and been minted. Ah well, Dad wasn't that type. Not for the main. Anyway, I'd thoroughly recommend exploring Dumbarton Castle. I've never even mentioned the cannons or the well or the gardens or the governor's house. All worth a look and great fun for all ages. Just take your inhaler if you've got asthma, or a litter bearer if you're a wee bit wobbly in your feet. It's time, though, to punt a really good book that features the castle. Not one, strangely, sold in the gift shop, although it should be because it's a fantastic book and look at the castle through the ages, through a great, well-researched story. and it's by a local man called Alexander Tate, and the book is called Upon This Rock. It begins with the unfair beating of a girl who finds a cross buried in castle grounds. But the book goes on to look at many issues, some of which are still here with us to this day. Yes, my book on getting fit in your 50s, Old Bloke Goes Running, is still out there. But having climbed that rock today, go for Upon This Rock instead by Alexander Tate. You'll find it an amazing read, and you'll find it on Amazon or at nitabooks.com. So, if anyone is listening, thank you very much. And until next time, ciao for now.